Sometimes the most perfect moments come from the most disastrous circumstances. Sometimes chemistry isn't found in smooth sailing, but in shared chaos and laughter through tears. This is the story of how bees, missed trains, and terrible timing led me to the best first date of my life. My name is Maya, and I'm 26 years old. Last night, I went on a date that was simultaneously a complete disaster and absolutely magical. Let me tell you how it all went wrong in the most perfect way possible. It started 3 weeks ago when I matched with Connor on a dating app. His profile was different from the usual guys I saw. No shirtless gym photos, no fish, no group shots where you couldn't tell which one he was. Just genuine photos. Him at a bookstore, him hiking, him at what looked like a family dinner, smiling, approachable, real. His bio was simple. Looking for someone who appreciates local coffee shops, terrible puns, and spontaneous adventures. Must tolerate my obsession with artisanal honey. The honey thing made me laugh. Such a specific, wholesome obsession. I swiped right. We matched immediately. Our conversation started easily. No awkward small talk, no forced flirting. Just natural, comfortable chatting. He told me about his job as an elementary school teacher, about his love for farmers markets and supporting local businesses, about his collection of different honeys from around the world. I told him about my work in graphic design, about my terrible cooking skills, about how I'd never really thought about honey as something to collect. "You're missing out," he wrote. "Different honeys have completely different flavors. It's like wine, but better." "Better than wine?" Bold claim. "I'll prove it to you. Let me take you to the pop-up market this Sunday. There's a vendor there who makes incredible local honey. You can try different varieties." A honey tasting date. It was so unusual, so specific, so Connor. I agreed. We texted every day leading up to Sunday. The conversations flowed easily. He was funny, kind, thoughtful. By the time Sunday arrived, I was genuinely excited, not nervous excited. Actually looking forward to meeting him. The plan was simple. Meet at the main pop-up market at 1 p.m. Browse the honey vendor. Walk around. Get to know each other. Simple. Easy. What could go wrong? Sunday morning, I took my time getting ready, did my makeup carefully, picked out a cute sundress, sandals, casual but put together. I left my apartment at 12:30. Plenty of time to walk to the market, maybe even arrive a few minutes early. The weather was beautiful. Sunny, warm, perfect market weather. Then I felt it. The humidity. You know that feeling when the air is so thick you can practically drink it? When your carefully styled hair immediately starts rebelling? I could feel my hair frizzing, getting bigger, losing all the smoothness I'd spent 40 minutes achieving with my straightener. I tried to ignore it, kept walking, told myself it wasn't that bad. Then I caught my reflection in a store window. It was that bad. My hair looked like I'd stuck my finger in an electrical socket. I checked my phone. 12:45. Still had time. I made a split-second decision, turned around, ran back to my apartment. I practically sprinted up the 4 flights of stairs, burst through my door, attacked my hair with products and styling tools, smoothed it down, re-straightened the worst sections, applied anti-frizz serum like my life depended on it. Checked the mirror. Much better. Not perfect, but acceptable. Checked my phone. 1:15? Oh no. I grabbed my bag, ran back out, practically fell down the stairs. The market was a 20-minute walk, maybe 15 if I speed walked. I speed walked. Actually, I almost jogged in sandals, which is never a good idea. Arrived at the market at 1:28. Sweating, out of breath, mentally cursing humidity. I spotted Connor immediately. He was standing near the entrance, checking his phone, looking relaxed, patient. He saw me approaching, smiled, waved. "Maya, hey!" No annoyance in his voice, just genuine happiness. "Connor, I am so sorry. I'm incredibly late. My hair went crazy from the humidity and I had to run back and fix it, and I should have just left earlier, and I'm so sorry." I was rambling, apologizing profusely, feeling terrible. He laughed. Not mean laughter, warm laughter. "It's totally fine. Your hair looks great, by the way. Definitely worth the extra time." "You're not mad?" "Why would I be mad? It's a beautiful day." I got to stand here and people watch. And now you're here, so it's perfect. His grace made me feel worse and better at the same time. So, I said, trying to recover, let's find that honey vendor. Connor's face fell slightly. About that, the market closes at 1:30. I looked at my phone. 1:29. Oh no. We have 1 minute to find honey. Think we can do it? The challenge in his eyes made me smile. Let's run. We actually ran through the market, weaving between vendors, scanning for anything honey-related. With 30 seconds to spare, we found a vendor. An older man with a small table of honey jars. Do you have any honey left? Connor asked, slightly out of breath. Last 3 jars, the man said. Market's closing, so I'll give you a good deal. Connor bought all 3 jars, thanked the man profusely. We left just as vendors started packing up. Standing outside the now closing market, Connor looked at his 3 jars of honey. Well, I got honey, but I wanted you to experience the full market. Try different varieties, see all the options. It's my fault for being late, I said for the 100th time. How about this? Connor said. There's another pop-up market across town. Smaller, but they have an amazing honey vendor. Want to salvage this date? His optimism was infectious. Absolutely. We walked to the metro, caught a train, talked easily despite the disastrous start. I have to say, Connor said, this is already more interesting than most first dates. Interesting is one word for it. Catastrophic is another. Nah, catastrophic would be if you didn't show up at all. This is just character building. I laughed. His ability to find humor in the situation made me like him even more. 20 minutes later, we arrived at the second market. Smaller, more intimate, less crowded. And there, near the center, was the honey vendor Connor had mentioned. The setup was impressive. Dozens of jars of different colored honeys, labels describing different flowers and regions. Samples available for tasting. But there was one problem. Bees. So many bees. They weren't aggressive, they were just there. Hanging around the honey like customers at a bar. Landing on jars, crawling on the table, flying lazily around the vendor space. I froze. I'm not a nature person, never have been. I don't camp, I don't hike. I actively avoid situations where bugs might be present. And here I was, on a first date, faced with what looked like a bee convention. Connor approached the vendor enthusiastically. Started asking about different honey varieties, completely unbothered by the insects. I hung back, tried to look casual, like I wasn't internally freaking out. The vendor was a woman in her 50s, Earth Mother type, long gray hair, flowy skirt. She spoke about her bees with such love. They're harmless, she was saying to Connor. They're just curious. They smell the honey and want to investigate. Connor turned to me. Want to try some samples? She has wildflower, orange blossom, and buckwheat. Every instinct in my body screamed no, but I'd already been late, already messed up the first market. I couldn't be difficult about this too. Mama didn't raise no punk. Sure, I said, stepping closer, trying to sound confident. The vendor handed me a small wooden stick with a dollop of golden honey on the end. This is the wildflower, she said, very mild, great for beginners. I took the stick, held it carefully, started to raise it toward my mouth. That's when I felt it, the tickle of tiny legs on my hand. I looked down, a bee, on my hand. On my hand. I froze. Completely froze. Didn't move. Didn't breathe. Connor noticed. You okay? Bee, I said through clenched teeth. On my hand. Just stay still. It'll fly away. But it didn't fly away. Instead, as I slowly raised the honey stick toward my mouth, the bee walked onto the stick. Now, there was a bee between me and the honey I was supposed to taste. We were maybe 3 inches from my face. I could see its little wings, its fuzzy body, its little bee face that probably thought I was a flower offering nectar. Connor, I whispered. Help. He gently took the stick from my hand. It's okay, I've got it. But the damage was done. My fear, scent, or movement or something had attracted attention. More bees came, curious about this new person near their honey. One landed on my shoulder, another buzzed near my ear. My composure, which had been hanging by a thread, snapped completely. I made a sound, not quite a scream, more like a yelp. A panicked, undignified yelp. And then I ran. Not walked quickly away. Actually ran. 20 feet away from the vendor stand. Away from the bees. Away from any shred of dignity I'd brought to this date. I stood there, breathing heavily, watching from a safe distance as Connor apologized to the vendor and bought his honey. He was probably rethinking this entire date, wondering how to politely end things with the girl who couldn't handle bees. But when he walked over to me, honey bag in hand, he was smiling. "You good?" "I am so sorry. I know I looked ridiculous. I just really don't like bees." I mean, the yelp was pretty entertaining. I didn't scream. "You definitely made a sound. A small sound. A notable sound," he said, grinning. "But hey, at least I got my honey, and now I know you're not a nature person." That's the understatement of the year. We stood there for a moment, the absurdity of the situation hanging between us. Then Connor said, "I'm hungry. Want to get dinner?" I looked at him. This man who'd waited patiently while I was late, who'd run through a closing market with me, who'd just watched me flee from bees like they were murder hornets. And he still wanted to have dinner. "Yes," I said. "I would love that." We walked to the metro station, caught a train toward the restaurant district. Connor told me about a place he loved, small Italian restaurant, family-owned, amazing pasta. "It's usually not too crowded on Sundays," he said. "We should be able to walk right in." The train ride was nice. We talked easily. The earlier disasters had somehow broken the ice, made us more comfortable with each other. "So," Connor said, "worst first date story. Go." I laughed. "Are you sure? It's bad. I want to hear it." So I told him about a date 3 years ago. The guy who'd taken me to a movie and fallen asleep, snored through the entire thing, then asked me to pay for his ticket because he'd technically not watched the movie. Connor laughed. "That's terrible." "Your turn." He told me about a date where the woman had brought her emotional support peacock to the restaurant. Actual peacock. It had caused chaos, knocked over drinks, screamed peacock screams. "I didn't know peacocks could be emotional support animals," I said. "They can't." She was just confident, I guess. We swapped more stories, each one worse than the last. We were laughing so hard we almost missed our stop. Connor checked his phone as we got off the train, pulled up the restaurant's information. His face fell. "Oh no." "What?" "They're closed on Sundays." Of course they were, because this date was apparently cursed. "I'm so sorry," Connor said. "I should have checked before we came all this way." "It's okay. We can find somewhere else." "Actually, I know another place. It's good, but it's in the opposite direction. We'd have to get back on and take a different line." "Let's do it." We turned to head back to the platform, but the train we just exited was still sitting there. Doors open, about to leave. "Quick, we can catch this one," Connor said. He moved fast, jumped through the doors onto the train. I moved slower, was still processing, still a few steps behind. I reached the doors just as they started closing. The ding-ding-ding of the warning sound. I stepped forward, tried to squeeze through, but the doors kept closing, faster than I expected. Connor saw what was happening, moved without thinking. He threw himself between the closing doors, literally put his whole body in the gap, trying to force them back open. But metro doors don't care about heroic gestures. They kept closing, pressing against him. For a moment, we were both frozen, him trapped between the doors, me on the platform, both of us, realizing this wasn't working. Then the doors won, closed completely, with Connor on the train and me on the platform. We stood there, staring at each other through the window, both of our mouths hanging open in shock. The train started moving. I watched Connor's horrified face get smaller as the train sped away, leaving me standing alone on the platform. For a second, I just stood there, stunned. Then I started laughing, not nervous laughter. Real, genuine, can't-breathe laughter. This date? This absolutely ridiculous date. I'd been late, ran from bees, and now was stranded on a metro platform while my date rode away into the distance. If this wasn't the worst first date ever, it was certainly the most memorable. I pulled out my phone, called Connor. He answered immediately. "Maya, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I just tried to stop the doors with your body." I was still laughing. I saw. This is a disaster. This is amazing. Amazing? Connor, this is the most chaotic first date I've ever had. And somehow, I'm having the best time. I could hear him laughing too. Okay, so here's the plan. I'll get off at the next stop. Take the train back. We'll meet up and try this dinner thing again. I'll wait right here. Don't move. I'm coming back for you. 15 minutes later, Connor appeared, running up the platform stairs. Out of breath, looking panicked and relieved. I'm so sorry, he said again. Stop apologizing. We've had technical difficulties. We're working through them. You're being way too nice about this. Connor, I said, looking at him seriously. Earlier you asked about worst first date stories. I think we're currently living in my new number one. He stared at me for a second, then burst out laughing. How's that for a first date story? I added. We both laughed. Real, deep belly laughs. The kind that make your stomach hurt. And something shifted. The disasters had stopped being stressful. They'd become funny, bonding. All the pressure of a first date was gone. We'd already seen each other at our worst. There was nothing left to be nervous about. Okay, Connor said when we'd recovered. Let's try this again. Restaurant number 2. Nothing can stop us now. Don't jinx it. Too late. We're already cursed. We caught the right train this time. Both of us paranoid about the doors, made sure we were standing together, ready to exit as a team. The second restaurant was perfect. Small, cozy, actually open. We got a table by the window, ordered drinks, looked at menus, and then we just talked. Really talked. The way you do when all pretense is gone. When you've already embarrassed yourself so thoroughly, there's no point in trying to impress anyone. We talked about our childhoods. Turned out we'd grown up in similar circumstances. Both children of immigrants, both first-generation college students, both navigating the space between two cultures. My parents wanted me to be a doctor, Connor said. When I told them I wanted to teach elementary school, they were so confused. Mine wanted me to be an engineer. Graphic design felt like a betrayal of their sacrifices. But you did it anyway. Eventually, after a year of pre-med classes that made me miserable, we swapped stories about family expectations, about finding our own paths, about the guilt and freedom that came with choosing ourselves. The conversation flowed like we'd known each other for years, not hours. We talked about books. Turned out we'd both loved the same series as kids, both still reread them as adults when life felt overwhelming. We talked about food. He told me about learning to cook from his grandmother, how every Sunday she'd make a sauce that simmered all day, filling the whole house with the smell of tomatoes and garlic. I confessed that I could barely make pasta without burning it. I'll teach you, he offered, smiling. Cooking is just following instructions and not being afraid of messing up. I'm great at messing up, I said. As today has proven. You're great at rolling with it, he replied. That's more important. The compliment caught me off guard. It wasn't flirtatious or practiced. It was genuine, the kind of thing that sinks in quietly and stays there. For a moment, I forgot the chaos of the day, the humidity, the bees, the trains. It all just felt right. We talked through appetizers, through the main course, through dessert. The restaurant began to empty around us, but the world outside our window seemed to keep spinning in slow motion. The lights outside blurred into streaks, and time felt soft, almost suspended. I should probably let you get home, Connor said eventually, though he didn't sound eager to leave. Probably, I agreed, though neither of us moved. We paid, stepped out into the night. The city was alive in that quiet, glowing way it sometimes is, street lights humming, pavement reflecting gold even though it hadn't rained. Music drifted faintly from somewhere, a saxophone maybe, or just the sound of people being alive. I'll walk you to the metro, Connor said. We walked slowly. Every step felt like a delay tactic. I wasn't ready for the night to end, and I could tell he wasn't either. I had a really great time, he said, despite everything. Because of everything, I corrected, smiling. This was the most fun disaster I've ever experienced. He stopped walking, turned to face me. Maya, His voice faltered. It was the first time all night he seemed unsure. Yes? I asked, softly. Would it be okay if He took a breath. Can I kiss you? He'd taken nearly 15 seconds to ask, stumbling through it like a teenager. Adorable, nervous, human. Yes, I said, before he could overthink it. Definitely yes. He stepped closer, gently brushed my hair back, and kissed me under the soft yellow glow of the streetlight. It wasn't movie perfect, it was better. Real. Hesitant, then sure. The kind of kiss that makes you forget which way gravity works. When we pulled apart, I felt it, those butterflies I'd rolled my eyes at in books. Real ones. Second date? He asked, still close enough that I could feel his breath. Absolutely, I said. But maybe somewhere with no bees. Deal, he said, and I'll double-check the hours first. And separate cars, I added. Just in case we get separated again. He laughed. Good thinking. We lingered there, smiling like two people who just stumbled into something they didn't want to jinx by naming. Finally, he walked me to the metro entrance. Another kiss, a promise to text. I rode the train home with a smile so wide, I caught my reflection in the window and didn't recognize myself. The disasters, the laughter, the kiss. It had been the worst first date and the best. When I reached home, my phone buzzed. Connor. Made it home. Still smiling. Still can't believe I tried to fight metro doors for you. Me, my hero. Even if the doors won. Connor. Next time I'll bring a crowbar. Me. Please don't fight public transportation on my behalf. Connor. Too late. You're worth fighting doors for. I fell asleep still grinning, still feeling those butterflies. Still wondering when chaos had started to feel like fate. Our second date wasn't supposed to be cinematic. Just coffee. Simple, safe, low pressure. Except it was Connor, so, of course, it wasn't simple. He picked a small cafe near the river. Vintage lamps, mismatched chairs, the smell of espresso and old wood. He was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window with 2 mugs and a small glass jar of, you guessed it, honey. I brought you a gift, he said. Inside was golden, amber-colored honey that caught the light. It's from the same vendor. Bee-free experience this time, he grinned. I laughed. Thank you for risking your life to get this. We talked for hours. About work, about music, about the weirdest things kids had ever said to him as a teacher. He told me one of his students had once asked if teachers sleep in the school basement. Another had written, I love Mr. Connor because he gives me snacks and existential advice. When we finally stepped outside, the sun was dipping low, the air sharp and cool. He walked me to the bridge overlooking the water. The skyline shimmered across the river. Okay, he said suddenly. Rapid fire questions. No thinking. Go. Pineapple on pizza? Yes. Favorite season? Autumn. Would you rather fight 1 horse-sized bee or 100 bee-sized horses? I laughed so hard I almost dropped my bag. You're never letting the bee thing go, are you? Not a chance, he said. It's part of your legend now. We stayed like that until twilight turned into night, and the streetlights blinked on one by one. Everything about it felt like the world had tilted slightly in my favor. Before we parted, he said, same time next week? I didn't hesitate. Yes. A week turned into 2, then 3. Each date had its own brand of chaos, getting caught in the rain without umbrellas, a bird stealing Connor's sandwich mid-sentence, my sandal breaking in the middle of a museum exhibit. We learned to laugh through all of it. He was steady. The kind of steady that sneaks up on you. And for the first time in a long while, I stopped waiting for things to go wrong. Until they did. It was a Friday, late afternoon. He texted earlier. Connor, dinner tonight? My treat. Got something to tell you. That something to tell you replayed in my head all day. By the time I reached the restaurant, my stomach was tangled with equal parts curiosity and nerves. He was already there, hands clasped on the table. When he looked up, he smiled, but there was tension behind it. Maya, he said, you look great. Thanks. So, what's the big news? He hesitated. Before I say it, just know that I didn't plan this. It just happened. My chest tightened. Okay. I got offered a position, he said, teaching abroad. In Kyoto. It's for a year. I blinked. Abroad? As in Japan? He nodded. I wasn't even looking. My old mentor reached out. They're building a new program there, and they want me to help lead it. That's incredible, I said automatically. Because it was, objectively. But inside, something cracked open a quiet panic. When do you leave? I asked. He looked down. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. That was less time than we'd known each other. The silence between us filled with the clinking of glasses from nearby tables, The hum of conversation, the faint music overhead, everything normal except for us. "I don't expect anything," he said softly. "I just didn't want to disappear without telling you." "You could have said no," I said before I could stop myself. "I thought about it," he admitted. "But it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing." I nodded slowly. "And what happens to us?" He looked pained. "That's the part I haven't figured out." Dinner came, but neither of us ate much. The easy rhythm we'd found, the laughter, the chaos, the shared humor, it all felt suspended, fragile. When we said goodnight, it was with the gentlest hug imaginable. The kind that says this might be goodbye, but I don't want it to be. For a few days, we didn't talk. Then a message came. "Connor, can I see you? Just once more before I go." I agreed. We met at the park near the river, the same one from our second date. He brought 2 cups of coffee. I brought the honey he'd given me. "I used it all month," I said. "In tea. On toast. I'm officially a honey person now." He smiled faintly. "My greatest accomplishment." We sat on a bench overlooking the water. The sky was gray, the kind of gray that blurs the horizon. "I keep thinking," he said, "how everything that went wrong on our first date somehow made everything right." "Yeah," I said quietly. "The chaos brought us here." "I wish I could stay," he whispered. "Then stay." He looked at me, and I could see it, the pull, the conflict, the thing that makes good people ache between love and purpose. "If I don't go," he said, "I'll always wonder what I missed, and I don't want to bring that regret into this." I nodded, blinking back tears. "So go, but don't disappear." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small glass vial filled with golden liquid. "Kyoto honey," he said, "from a friend who teaches there. I was saving it for when you visit." I laughed through the tears. "You're already assuming I'll visit?" "I'm assuming we'll both still want this," he said. "Even oceans apart." He took my hand. "Warm, steady. I'll write. Every week. Old school letters, not just texts." "Then I'll write back," I said. "Even if the bees intercept them." He laughed softly, and for a moment, the weight lifted. We sat there until the sun fell behind the skyline, until the lamps flickered on, until goodbye became inevitable. When he finally stood, he pressed the vial into my hand. "For when things feel uncertain," he said. Sweet reminder. Then he kissed me one long, unhurried kiss that felt like a promise sealed in honey and light. Weeks passed, then months. True to his word, the letters came folded neatly, postmarked from Kyoto. Each one was filled with small details. How the students bowed before class, how cherry blossoms fell like snow, how he'd found a cafe that sold honey cake that tastes almost like that night we met. I kept them in a box on my desk, read them when the city felt too big. Then, one day, a thicker envelope arrived. Inside was a short note and a photograph. The note read, "Maya, this is from the roof of my school. Every evening the sunset hits the windows like melted gold. It reminds me of that streetlight in the city. Thought you'd like to see what it looks like when chaos finds peace. Connor." The photograph showed a skyline bathed in gold, the light shimmering across tiled roofs. And right at the edge of the frame, his shadow, holding up a jar of honey toward the sun. Almost a year later, I was at the same pop-up market where it all began, only now I was running a small booth of my own. After Connor left, I'd started making hand-painted labels for local artisans. It grew from side work into a small business. Chaos had turned into something creative. As I handed a customer their purchase, I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Excuse me, do you still sell the good honey here?" I turned. Connor, standing there. Same easy smile. Slightly tanner, hair longer, eyes tired in the way that only happy people get. "You're early," I said, laughing through a sudden rush of tears. "Flight landed this morning," he said. "I came straight here. Had to see if the bees still remember us." I shook my head. "You're unbelievable." He grinned. "You wouldn't believe how hard it is to find decent honey in airport duty-free." I stepped around the counter. We just looked at each other for a long, quiet second. The world blurred again, the voices, the vendors, the hum of life. He reached into his bag and pulled something out. "Another jar?" This one darker, labeled in careful handwriting. "For Maya, Kyoto, 2026. "You kept your promise," I said. "So did you," he replied, glancing around at my booth. Then, softly, "Can I kiss you again?" Just to make sure the city still feels like it used to? I nodded. Yes, definitely yes. He kissed me again right there among the jars of honey, the sound of laughter, the scent of summer air. It wasn't dramatic or grand, just right, real. When we finally pulled apart, I whispered, "You know this place is cursed, right? Bees, humidity, market closings." He smiled. Then I guess chaos really is our good luck charm. Later that evening, as we walked through the same streets where we'd once stumbled and laughed and run from bees, I realized something. The story hadn't been about disaster or coincidence. It had been about recognition, finding someone whose rhythm matched yours, even when everything else went off beat. Connor stopped by the same intersection where we'd first kissed. "Still your favorite corner?" he asked. "It is now," I said, "because it's where everything started and started again." He smiled. "Then let's make sure we don't end it here." Above us, the streetlight flickered once like it was agreeing. And in that soft, cinematic glow, between laughter and memory, chaos and calm, I finally understood what he'd meant when he said cooking was just following instructions and not being afraid of messing up. Love was the same way. You follow your heart. You make mistakes. You laugh through the smoke. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you find someone who makes every disaster feel like home.